It always starts the same way. She looks at you, not as you are, but as who she imagines you could become. You feel it in her gaze, don't you? That strange mix of wonder and intensity. Is it admiration? Is it desire? Or is it something deeper, maybe even a little darker? You think you're being seen, really seen, but you're not. You're being studied, measured, evaluated like raw potential, like a story waiting to be written. And she's already started writing it in her mind, casting you not as you are, but as the man she hopes you'll become. A character, not a person. A role, not a reality. And here's the truth. The masterpiece she's creating, it isn't you. It never was. Carl Jung warned us about this, not with motivational slogans or self-help sound bites, but with the precision of a man who spent his entire life exploring the dark, unseen corners of the human psyche. Jung devoted himself to understanding the unconscious, the part of the mind that operates below awareness, shaping how we see ourselves, others, and the world. And what he discovered about love, and especially about women, was as fascinating as it was disturbing. He found that women don't just fall in love with men, they fall in love with the idea of men, with the image, the potential, the fantasy. And most of the time, they don't even realize they're doing it. You might believe she's choosing you, but what she's really choosing is a version of you she built in her own mind, a mental projection, a psychological puppet cast perfectly into the script she's been rehearsing since childhood. And when you stop fitting that script, she doesn't rewrite the story, she just recasts the role. Jung had a name for this, the animus, the inner masculine archetype that lives inside every woman. And when that animus is immature or unchecked, it turns from a guiding energy into a tyrant. It takes over. It causes women to chase dangerous men and reject grounded ones. It drives them to dominate without depth, argue without reason, and moralize without self-reflection. He didn't sugarcoat this. He called it what it is, spiritual possession. A woman so overtaken by her unconscious masculine projection that she no longer acts from her own self-awareness. She acts from a shadow, an internal image that speaks with a voice that isn't even hers. And men, you fall right into the trap because no one ever taught you how to see it. You mistake desire for recognition. You think being chosen means being understood. You believe her when she says, "You're different." But she doesn't really know you. She only knows the character you're playing, the one she wants, the one she needs to believe in. And when the illusion starts to fall apart, when you stop fitting the mold, you're left feeling betrayed, lost, wondering what you did wrong. But here's the brutal truth. You didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped being a convincing actor in a movie that was never about you. Jung said the only way out of this psychological drama is through a process he called individuation. It's the lifelong journey of becoming whole, of integrating all the parts of yourself, the light and the shadow, the powerful and the fragile, the parts you show the world and the ones you hide, even from yourself. And let's be honest, most men never even begin that journey. You've been trained to chase approval, conditioned to win affection, programmed to seek your value through how women see you. And as long as you keep doing that, you'll keep ending up in the same role. Again and again and again. Getting replaced when the next act begins. Individuation isn't sexy. It's not a glow-up montage set to inspiring music. It's brutal, it's painful, it's lonely. It forces you to face the weakest parts of yourself, the insecure, the fearful, the ashamed. And it demands something almost no one wants to give, ownership. Not of her story, but of yours. Because here's what Jung knew that most men don't. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. Your value isn't something she can grant you. It's something you reclaim when you stop outsourcing your worth. A man who has confronted his unconscious doesn't need validation from someone else's projection. He's not trying to be cast in her play. He's writing his own damn script. Jung warned you, that the tragedy of modern man isn't just rejection. It's self-betrayal. It's becoming whatever shape you think will be accepted, liked, loved. You call it compromise. You call it romance. You call it being emotionally available. Jung called it what it is, a denial of your true self. Because every time you shrink, contort, or perform to match the story someone else wrote, you stop being a man and become a mask. And women? They can feel it. Oh, they feel it more than you think. The very qualities you believe will make you lovable, being agreeable, easy, predictable, become the exact reasons she starts to pull away. Because what the feminine craves isn't comfort, it's mystery, it's depth, it's presence. Jung understood something that still confuses modern men. The feminine isn't drawn to safety, it's drawn to vitality, to the edge, to the man she can't fully define or control. The moment you make yourself completely transparent, when you have no boundaries, no spine, you don't become more attractive. You become invisible, disposable, replaceable. And yet, here's the paradox. You fear being alone more than you fear being fake. Jung saw this all too clearly. He worked with countless patients who were terrified to face their own darkness, the rejected, denied, and hidden parts of their psyche that they'd locked away for years. He called this part the shadow. And unless it's brought into the light, it doesn't go away. It just takes control from the background. And for many women, Jung noticed this process is even more elusive. Why? Because they're often raised in cultures that reward them for staying unconscious. They're told from a young age that they're naturally good, that they're emotionally wise, that they're complete just as they are, that they don't need to change, only to find someone who sees them. But Jung didn't buy it. He warned that the real danger for women wasn't outside, it was inside. It was the unexamined animus, the masculine voice in their psyche that speaks not with curiosity, but with false certainty, not with compassion, but with judgment, not with truth, but with unearned moral superiority. And if a woman doesn't face and integrate that inner masculine energy, she becomes its prisoner. She projects it onto every man she meets, and then unconsciously blames him for the war that's actually happening inside her. And there you are, thinking you're her exception, thinking if you love her hard enough, give enough, perform enough, she'll finally see the real you. She'll finally pick you. But projection doesn't work like that. Projection is a thief. It steals reality and replaces it with illusion. And until both men and women wake up to that illusion, they'll keep reliving the same emotional tragedies, each blaming the other, never realizing they're both being pulled by forces they haven't faced. Here's the bitter irony. The woman who once looked at you like you were everything, her hero, her dream, will eventually look at you with resentment, not because you failed her, but because you failed the fantasy she never even told you she had. The invisible role she was subconsciously casting you into from the start. You didn't betray her, you didn't lie to her, you just stopped being the unconscious ideal she projected onto you, and that's why she pulls away. That's why she grows cold. That's why you feel so confused, like you're being punished for something you never agreed to in the first place. Jung said that when people avoid taking responsibility for their inner world, psychological betrayal becomes inevitable. Because when fantasy is mistaken for truth, disappointment is guaranteed. And still, we pretend it's love. We tell ourselves this chaos is romantic, that the drama, the highs and lows, the push and pull, it's all part of the passion. But Jung had a different word for it: possession. He believed most relationships aren't grounded in mutual understanding. They're fueled by mutual projection. Two incomplete people seeing each other not as they are, but as placeholders for their unhealed pain. And here's the most dangerous question you can ask as a man. What if I am the one responsible for this pattern? Because if you really sit with that question, if you stop blaming women for being deceptive, manipulative, shallow, and instead ask, why did I allow myself to be chosen by this woman in the first place? Everything changes. Because maybe it wasn't about her at all. Maybe it was about the part of you that wanted to be chosen more than you wanted to be seen. The part of you that feared being alone more than being inauthentic. The part that would rather be a character in someone else's fantasy than stand alone in your truth. And that's when you see it. You're not a victim. You were a volunteer. You chose to play the fool. You chose to perform. You chose to let her carry your soul, your meaning, your worth, because doing the inner work felt too heavy. Facing your own emptiness, too painful. So you let her fill the space. But that was never her job. And here's the part where most men check out, where they scroll away, because this isn't a feel-good message. There are no quick tips, no 5-step plans, just the quiet, brutal truth. You must do the work. Jung didn't promise greatness. He offered a challenge, a terrifying, liberating challenge. Confront yourself. Sit in the silence of your mind. Stay there. No distractions, no validation, no audience, just you. And in that silence, something terrifying happens. The voice in your head, the one that says, "You're nothing without her. You'll never be enough. No one will love you unless you keep performing." That voice starts to scream because it knows it's dying. And it will fight for its life. It will tell you to run back, to text her, to apologize for things you didn't do, to earn back the illusion. But don't. Hold the line. Because once that voice dies, once you face the terror of being alone, you start to feel something new, something foreign, something true. Freedom. Not the kind you talk about in self-help books, not the kind you post about on Instagram, but real freedom. The kind that doesn't need applause, doesn't need attention, doesn't even need to be understood. The kind that makes you untouchable, not cold, not emotionless, just whole, rooted, present. And that's when something strange happens. That's when women, real women, start to notice you. Not because you chased them, not because you said the right lines or played the right part, but because you stopped needing them. And they can feel it. They can feel that you're not available to be molded anymore, not willing to bend to fit into a fantasy, not a puppet, not a prize, not a placeholder. You've become real. And paradoxically, that's when you become the most attractive. Not because you want something from them, but because you don't. And when that moment arrives, when you finally meet a woman who has also done the work, who has faced her animus, integrated her own shadow, and stopped projecting her inner war onto men, something incredible happens. You don't need her to complete you. And she doesn't need you to rescue her. You meet not as characters in a love story, but as two whole people, two humans who chose truth over fantasy. No masks, no scripts, no games, just truth. And in that meeting, man to woman, soul to soul, there is no desperation, no clinging, no seduction disguised as love. There's just clarity, a stillness between you, a deep recognition that neither of you is trying to be anything but exactly who you are. And that, according to Jung, is the rarest form of love. The kind that doesn't demand, but offers, that doesn't consume, but amplifies. Love that doesn't come from lack, but from freedom. The freedom to choose each other. The freedom to walk away if necessary. The freedom to stay, not because you need to, but because you want to. But here's the part most people miss. Most men will miss. You can't reach this place if you quit halfway, and most of you will. Most will settle for the performance, for being liked instead of being respected, for being adored instead of being known, for the momentary high of being someone else's fantasy, rather than enduring the solitude it takes to become your own reality. Because let's be honest, that path, it's brutal. It strips away everything. It forces you to burn every false identity you've ever used to earn love, earn sex, earn praise. But if you have the courage to keep going, to keep walking deeper into the silence, deeper into the void, you'll find yourself standing on the edge of something terrifyingly beautiful. You'll find yourself. And when you do, when that wholeness finally begins to take root, something even more extraordinary begins to happen. You stop seeing women as the mirror you use to feel like a man. They no longer define you. They no longer hold the power to shape your worth, your path, your identity. They become something else entirely. Not trophies, not saviors, not mothers, not muses, but allies. And from that place, you'll love differently. You won't love to get. You'll love to give. Not because you're trying to prove yourself, but because giving from overflow is natural for a man who no longer runs on emptiness. Carl Jung never gave us step-by-step formulas. He wasn't interested in making you more palatable to others. He didn't care if you became charming or successful or adored. He cared about one thing, authenticity. He left you a warning, not a shortcut. A warning that if you refuse to confront yourself, you'll spend your life trapped in the projections of others, especially the projections of women. You'll keep being cast into roles you didn't audition for, performing scenes you didn't write, and wondering why you always feel like something's missing. But he also left you a challenge, the challenge of individuation, of becoming so deeply, unshakably yourself that no fantasy, no projection, no expectation can possess you anymore. And that begins with the most radical act a man can take in today's world. Stop blaming women. Stop blaming them for the roles you volunteered to play. Stop waiting for one of them to validate your existence. Stop handing over the keys to your identity and then resenting them for where they drive it. Because the truth is, if you haven't chosen yourself, you can't blame anyone else for not choosing you either. The man who chooses himself doesn't wait to be seen. He sees. He doesn't perform to be loved. He loves from a place that expects nothing in return. He doesn't need to be understood to live in truth. He becomes untouchable, not because he's unreachable, but because he's real. And the real can't be manipulated. And if you've made it this far, if something deep inside you is still listening, then don't let this just be another YouTube video you consume and forget. Take action. Not flashy action, not performative action, but quiet action. Start by sitting still. Turn off the noise. Look at your life. Really look at it. Ask the hard questions. Who have I been pretending to be? What fantasy am I performing for? Where am I giving away my soul for the sake of being chosen? Because until you answer those questions with raw, uncomfortable honesty, nothing in your life will change. You'll keep chasing women who aren't capable of seeing you. You'll keep resenting the ones who leave. You'll keep molding yourself into whatever you think will finally earn love and slowly forgetting who you were before the mask. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can take the path Jung spoke of. The path of fire, of solitude, of waking up. And when you do, when you really begin to individuate, you will stop attracting women who want you to perform. You will begin attracting women who want the truth. And you'll know the difference instantly. Because she won't need you to be anything but what you are. She won't flood you with grand promises. She won't play the role of goddess or savior or prize. She will simply be raw, honest, open. Not because she's trying to complete you, but because she has already completed herself. She's done the work. She's burned through her illusions. She's met her own animus. And she doesn't need you to carry her soul. She wants to meet you. Eye to eye, whole to whole. And in that space, there's no clinging, no control, no performance. There's just truth. And that kind of truth, that's the rarest, most dangerous form of love. Because it is not born from need. It's born from freedom. Freedom to walk beside someone, not to lean on them, not to hold them up, not to rescue or be rescued, but to walk together in full ownership of your path. And if you ever experience that, if you ever meet someone who's also done the work, you'll never go back to the fantasy. Because the truth is better, even when it hurts, even when it's lonely. But most men won't wait that long. Most won't go that deep. They'll settle for the performance, for the illusion, for the temporary comfort of being who someone else wants them to be. But if you have the courage to keep walking this path, you'll find yourself standing in the middle of your life, fully present, fully whole. And you'll realize something stunning. You don't need her to see you. You already see yourself. And in that moment, everything changes. You're no longer a puppet. You're no longer a projection. You're a man, real, rooted, unapologetically alive. And that, my friend, is where your real life begins.